Kia ora whanau, my name is Scott Paddy-Korwhai and welcome to another episode of Ora Hauora Northern Region's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be doing an online scholarship workshop, so enjoy. So what are scholarships and grants? Scholarships and grants are free money that's provided by institutions, organisations and individuals to support people to reach their dreams and their aspirations. The advantages of scholarships are the stress-free funding of study, course-related costs and luxuries. Because this can be a real limitation for students studying, all of the extra costs. So you go from being this to this. So as an example of what tuition costs, including both tuition fees as well as fees for living and studying in Auckland, here's an example of my nursing costs just from this year of studying a first year Bachelor of Nursing at the University of Auckland. So my tuition's about $7,000. My accommodation to live in student accommodation is about $11,000. My food, textbooks, uniform, stethoscope, nursing watch, insurance, and more. As you can see, that these are a substantial cost to studying. And for me, it's been over about $20,000 just this 1 year of studying and living in Auckland. Scholarships have supported me to cover my first 3 years of tuition, which has been such a blessing, and half of my accommodation. So as you can see, the $20,000 has obviously been cut down substantially. So scholarships are such an amazing opportunity to be able to do that. And further, smaller scholarships have supported me to fund the extra costs as seen on the previous slide, like my uniform, like my textbook. So such an amazing opportunity, and that's why we must apply for them, whānau. Other advantages of scholarships are the ability to focus on your study rather than work, because this really can be of detriment to getting those good grades. Less financial stress for you and your whānau, rather than creating a burden for them or a burden on yourself. To be able to carry yourself and have that supported by a scholarship team is an amazing opportunity. They often come with mentoring and support. Often these organisations, they don't want to see you fail, so they'll give you extra support to really make sure you get through. So it's not just financial support you're receiving, it's all over holistic support that you're getting. It's a great network to tap into, both to meet other current students, like-minded students who are on the scholarship program too, as well as be introduced to employment opportunities, be introduced to managers within that organisation, because often they will want to take you, after you finish your studies, they will want to employ you, and some of them actually have contractual obligations to have to go work for them. So a really awesome way to get guaranteed work and to be supported into the workforce after your studies. So where do you find scholarships? So you can find scholarships on the Ora Hauora website, orahauora.co.nz. So go to that now. So here's the Ora Hauora website. So if you head up onto orahauora.co.nz, and here if we click the scholarship and we go down to database. So this is where you can find all of the scholarship information. This will be able to filter down which scholarships are relevant to you. So as we can see, here's a general search bar. So if you have a scholarship in mind, you can search up that straight away. If you're not sure what scholarships are applicable to you, you can come down to this level and filter any keywords, any other specialities where you can. So just as an example, we'll look at the secondary school scholarships. We'll do a search for those. Then it'll bring up a big list of all of them filtered towards secondary school students, what you're applicable for. Cool. So scrolling down, we now see that there is 112 scholarships to apply for. So as you can see, if we wanted to further filter it down, it'd be easy to narrow that down and make the database less overwhelming. So an awesome way to do it is to just look to make sure which ones are eligible for you. Have a brief look at these ones to see. So this one's obviously for Canterbury students. For those living in Auckland, you would be able to skip over this pretty fast and realise it's not for you. If we have a look at the Reach Scholarship for Year 13 Māori secondary school students. So if that applied to you, you could open that one up and have a look at the other conditions that come with the scholarship. So we'll look at that in a minute. Also, if you notice on this right hand side of the page, we have the closing soon scholarships. So these are all the scholarships closing in the next 20 days. They're a really handy thing just to make sure you don't miss anything if you have a quick look over and see what's coming up. Yeah, so we'll go and have a look at the Reach Scholarship now and look how it looks. So here's the title, here's the history of why they're giving it away, the purpose of it. So we can see from the purpose that they're looking for a Year 13 Māori secondary school student interested in health to come down to the University of Auckland over the next holidays. So you must be Māori, you must be enrolled at secondary school, and you must be considering studying at the University of Auckland. You can look at the number offered. All of this information is really handy, particularly looking at the closing date and making sure that you're keeping up and you're planning out when you're going to be able to write this application. how you apply additional information. So an awesome place to come find all of this information about scholarships. Would really recommend having a good look through here. There's heaps of scholarships. Don't be overwhelmed, make sure you filter through. Further, if we go to the scholarship tab and look at scholarship tips, these are tips created by Ora Hauora, just very general and broad tips about how to use the search engine, how to craft a scholarship application, but this video will go over most of those, so awesome. So tips that I've come up with using the database is to filter searches just as we did for secondary school students, just to narrow down your results and make the database less overwhelming. Using the closing soon panel to see what applies to you. Opening all of the scholarships just as we did it with the Reach one, and if it's not applicable, kind of filtering through and clicking out of the ones that aren't, and that way you're left with the tabs that just apply to you. It can just make it less overwhelming again. If you follow the Ora Hauora Facebook page, we're really proactive in putting all of our scholarship posts on there, particularly the big scholarships, particularly the ones closing soon, and just sharing those. So yeah, facebook.com/Ora Hauora Northern. You'll be able to find us there. So now that you've found a scholarship, so like let's say the Reach one, how do you make a strong application? So check the closing dates and realistically plan when you can write the application. Look through the application and consider factors that could take time. Some of them you need to post in. So with New Zealand Post, it could be anywhere from 3 to 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like just not knowing how long they're going to take to post your letter. So be sure to get that in right on time. If you need a reference, make sure you go to them early and get someone to. So a reference is usually from a deputy principal, or a professional, so like someone like a chaplain or a pastor at your church. These people obviously need a bit of time to do a write-up about you, so be sure to leave plenty of time to do that. You might need to attach a CV or a cover letter, so make sure you've got one of those in the pipeline or have got one pre-prepared. If you become unwell, you need to be able to leave time for that, and also lots of time for reviewing. So now that you've done the nitty-gritty, what I like to do is look for the questions that they're going to ask on the scholarship page and copy and paste those into a Word document. The reason I say this is because a lot of the online scholarships have timeouts on their text boxes, so when you're typing in, you can type all afternoon and you perfectly reviewed everything, and when you go to click the submit or the save button, it says this page is timed out, please refresh. You refresh and all of your work's gone, which is such a shame. So I definitely recommend copying it into a Word, saving that and keeping it up to date in there, and then once you've filled out all the information, copying it back into those text boxes, and you should avoid that problem. Some common scholarship questions are: explain and give examples of where you have shown academic achievement. One thing I always say about academic achievement is that you don't have to be the most scholarly person. The panel's are often looking for someone who's balanced. They're not looking for someone who doesn't socialise, who doesn't have a balanced lifestyle, because often they'll be the people who get to university and they burn out. They're looking for people who play sports, who have a wide range of stuff that will keep them sane during university, which will support their studies and which will create social networks and all of that stuff. So just in terms of my scholarships, when I was in high school, I only got merit endorsement for level 3. So that should kind of act as an encourager to students, I guess, that you don't have to be getting the excellences, but please don't get complacent with that. Please still be attempting for those, but yeah, don't get caught up about academic achievement if you're balanced with everything else. So leadership, so you apply for roles in school like prefect, board of trustees, also ones in the community within your iwi. If they aren't there, a tip that I have is to make your own. So approach your school with a need and become a leader of it. So at my school, I noticed that there was a real lack of Māori support. So I approached them and started up a Māori tōkana and teina support system, leading that with other senior Māori students at my school. So it's really about crafting those applications, crafting those leadership opportunities where there's not where they aren't making them. Yeah, culture participation. So getting involved with things like kapaka, manu kōrero, whānau and iwi events, community service and all-round ability. So start volunteering, show the courses you've been to, such as these Ora Hauora events. Head along to these, showing that you're participating, that you're really trying to improve both self and professional development. And overall, you can, in this section, explain why you're keen to receive the scholarship and what the scholarship will help you to achieve and what will it enable you to do. So now, finally, what I'll get you to do is, if you grab a pen and paper, or just in your head, write out these academic achievement, leadership, culture participation, community service and all-round ability. Write out these titles and bullet point underneath, or branch off from them, where you think you've got examples that show that. This is a really handy tool to be able to, this is how I start all of my applications, is by bullet pointing and then fleshing these out. But it's a really handy way to see where you've currently got strengths, where you might have weaknesses, and being able to improve those weaknesses, seeing where, oh, maybe I'm not quite doing enough leadership roles, or maybe I'm not quite, haven't quite ever done community service, but looking for those opportunities now, being aware of that, and yeah, attempting to strengthen those will be a really key part of that. So if you pause the video now, and then once you've bullet pointed, jump back on and we'll get on with the presentation. Cool, so now that you've got your bullet points, reflect on these and have a think about where you need to strengthen, where you need to develop those skills, because it's not too late, it's never too late to be able to do that. Think about the opportunities as well where you could be doing this. Yeah. So other tips for making a strong application are, often we're a bit fuck-ma to put ourselves out there, we're a bit shy, we hide away from saying how good we are. If you're struggling with this, it can be really handy to get a whānau member or a friend to support you in writing this section. Get them to write out the things that they value about you, the things that they really like about you. Particularly your parents and your whānau. Yeah, they tend to think you're a pretty great person, so they're a great person to be able to think, even for things that you don't think that you might be particularly good at. They can speak to those, they know you really well. So that's a really easy way of starting that bit of the application when you have to talk about what your strengths are, how you've shown good stuff. Yeah. When applying to an organisation, it's really handy to have a look through what they're looking for and speak to these points. If they're saying they want someone who's a strong communicator, speak to being a strong communicator and say you've shown that through A, B, C and D. You can include key words that they use within their organisation values. They're another good thing to look at. See what the mission statement of the organisation is, and speak to how the scholarship will enable you to support those values. That can really support you being an ideal candidate for them. When you've completed the written sections, send them to your whānau, to your friends, to your teachers for review. Even with simple sections like your name and date of birth, it would be an instant turn off if you got this wrong. And it is really easy to put, put today's date instead of the date of birth, because first impressions are everything, especially when it comes to scholarships, when people are investing a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of support into you. Other tips are having an appropriate email address and voice recording. You've got to give off your best impression. If you're going to have an email that might not reflect who you aspire to be or what the scholarship could enable you to do, it's probably not going to be the best reflection. This is the same with social media. Making it work friendly, make it something that you'll be happy to show your grandma. If you're not happy to show your grandma, it's probably not the best thing to put on there. And with this, LinkedIn's also a really handy tool to be able to search through, and it's like a business version of social media. So I'll flick to my LinkedIn now, just as an example. So when you search my name in Google, this is a similarly handy tip to go through and have a look when you search your name, what employees will be able to see about you. So when you look at mine, the first thing you see is my LinkedIn page. So LinkedIn is a business version of Facebook, like a social media, and LinkedIn allows professionals to go on and see it's like an online CV about you, so they can see what you're studying, what your experiences have been, education, scholarships, voluntary things. It really is a good reflection upon you as to what you're doing, how you're engaging with community, and all of that. So we're thinking of doing another presentation soon about how to create a good LinkedIn and getting students together, so we'll be emailing you about that really soon if you're interested in making one of those. Be prompt with your replying, particularly when you're doing emails. If they've let you know, be really onto it and thank them early. Let them acknowledge their communication. Further with phone calls, be prepared to answer the phone professionally rather than just being like sup or something that doesn't reflect who they're looking for. Say, kia ora, Scott speaking, or show your best side. The great thing about scholarships is that many of them often ask for similar information, just as we've seen with those 4 about the academic achievement and leadership and all of that. They often are looking at the same information, and they'll just ask slightly different variations of these questions. So this means after you've done your first application, that can become a stock application and it's ready to submit. Just after rechecking this information for further applications, you're ready to resubmit and send that off. So that's a really handy tool. After being awarded a scholarship, it's really nice to send a thank you letter. It goes a long way. long way for these people that they've given you support, but you're also acknowledging that support and thanking them for that. It can also support with additional things that they'll be happy to support you with. Check the obligations of what you receive of what your scholarship entails. These can be having to get a certain GPA, like keep that up, compulsory employment within the organisation and all of that. If you don't get a scholarship, please don't be disheartened. Sometimes we aren't the right fit and we need to recognise that others may have stronger applications, but there will be a scholarship that's just for you, that you meet the criteria for. So I've had friends who weren't successful on their first application and gave up after that, but please don't do that. It's such a hard mentality, but you have to realise that, sometimes your application won't be the strongest for that one, but there's always one in the future that you'll likely be eligible for, and just keep applying. Once you've written that first one, it makes it so much easier to continue application. The further you cast your net, the more chances you have, but you also need to be prepared to get no fish. I think that's really true about scholarships. You need to keep casting your net. The more chances you have, the more scholarships you're applying for, but sometimes when we pull on those nets, we need to expect to have no fish. But if we're lucky and with time and perseverance, we'll get fish. If they provide feedback about you as to why you didn't get the scholarship, utilise this to improve your application in future. And same with those applications with the scholarships you do get. If they give you feedback about why your application was strong, and use that feedback to keep crafting your applications, because that's obviously what the scholarship teams are looking for. So if you jump on the database now, orahaura.co.nz/scholarship, have a look through, filter through and figure out what's applicable to you. Look through the closing soon tab and see which one of those apply to you and which ones you can be utilising. Open up all of the tabs and have a look through the scholarships that apply, and then check the eligibility criteria, the closing date, what information they want and the obligations, and make an application for it, utilising all that we've been through in this session. Cool. So future sessions, what we've been talking about as we've looked through the feedback from the sessions I did across Auckland, is that people want CV and cover letter writing. So this is around lots of scholarships actually want you to put a CV in. A CV is an opportunity to summarise all of your involvement. It summarises all of those leadership, academic achievement, all of those abilities into one document. And further, your cover letters where you can specifically sell yourself as to how you align with an organisation, and some of them do require this, and these do take time, they do take patience, and they take a fair amount of practice, so we would love to support you with those. Interviewing techniques, some scholarships do bring you in to have an interview, so to be able to remember techniques as to how to answer questions, how to present yourself in an interview, we would love to support you with that. And we'd love to know what other sessions you'd find helpful, whether that be ones around study techniques, study wānanga. We've had a couple of people ask for a university preparation session, talking about study tips for university, where to access support, just general tips and tricks which can support you going into your first year of study. So we'd love to host that if that's something you'd be interested in. Awesome. If you have any questions, please comment below, and we'll be more than happy to go through and answer them. Please private message if you have any other ones. But yeah, I hope this scholarship presentation has been encouraging from you, and I really do hope that you have a look through the scholarship database, find one that applies to you, make a plan as to how you're going to do it, answer the questions, get it reviewed, send it through to Ora Hauora, send it through to us if you need a bit of support with that, especially on your first one. We're more than happy to help with that. And yeah, just hope it's a use of you, and go hard, go get those scholarships. Let us know which ones you get, because we'd love to profile you and support you further, and keep up to date with our Facebook page, because that's where we'll be sharing the latest scholarships, stuff that comes out, and just to give you a bit of support. So I hope it's of use, and yeah, ka kite.